panel for Statesboro. This event is to highlight women in leadership roles within the Statesboro community and tying it into Women's History Month. The panelists today will share their journeys as leaders in both business and the community, discussing how they got started, what motivated them as leaders, and the keys to their success. This will be a predominantly question and answer forum, and I am pleased to introduce you from your right to left, Ms. Carolyn Etheridge, Market President for Renaissance Bank here in Statesboro, and she has served on the OTC Board of Directors from 2017 to 2023. Next is Yolanda Trimble, Business Office Director for Willow Pond Senior Care Center, co-owner of Craig R. Trimble Funeral Home, and also served on the OTC Board of Directors from 2014 to 2023. Next is Rachel Edwards, attorney at Wright and Edwards PC here in Statesboro, and has also served on OTC Board of Directors from 2008 to 2017, and served as our board chair from 2014 to 2017. Finally, we have Amy Lingo, who is Dean and Professor for the College of Education at Georgia Southern University and Executive Director for the Kentucky Reading Research Center. All right, and I'd like to ask the panel if each of you could please give the audience a brief account of your personal journey. And Amy, we'd like to start with you.
I already messed up.
Okay.
I wonder. That's okay. That's okay. I just don't want to do anything wrong up here. I feel like this is the closest I will get to being on Oprah. So, I've been in Statesboro. First, thank you all for inviting me here today. This is really great. It's a great introduction to Ogeechee Tech, and thanks to all of you for putting this on. I've only been in Statesboro since October 1st. I came to Georgia Southern after spending 19 years of my career at the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. So before this, I've never lived anywhere else but Kentucky. And I must say, the warm welcome that I have received here in Georgia is pretty amazing. So it's great to be among such hospitable people. So at the University of Louisville, well, let me go back. First, I grew up in a rural community in Kentucky, and neither of my parents had gone to college. As my dad would say, he was lucky to graduate from high school, but it was something that they always told me that I would do. And so I went to a small liberal arts school in Lexington, Kentucky, primarily because I didn't think I could get in. And I got in, and I was Pell eligible, and that was really important for my family and for me to complete that degree. And while I was there, I thought that I wanted to go to dental school, primarily because my family told me, you need to make money. If you're going to go to college, then we're going to rely on you to make money. And so I thought I was going to be a dentist because I was working for a dentist. And well, the long story short, my first semester in college, I didn't do well. Many of you may relate to that. I wasn't ready, because I know now that as a first-generation college student, we are often unprepared for the social dynamics and all those barriers that we face that other students who've had family members that have navigated through college, how they often face or don't face things that we do. So I finished. I did not get into dental school, and I decided to teach, and I became a middle school teacher. And that, still today, is by far the most favorite job that I've had. So I taught 7th grade, and then from there, a professor from the University of Kentucky was observing in my classroom, and she had an opportunity for me to become part of a grant that was going to pay me to go to graduate school and pay me to be a research assistant. And so that was the first time that I was like, oh, there's these things that will actually pay you to go to school and pay your tuition. This sounds amazing. So that started a journey of me just really asking questions, because I knew that even though I was teaching 7th grade, there were students in that classroom that really weren't reading on grade level. And that really stuck with me. And I wanted to know why. why weren't they reading on grade level? What strategies were going to help them? So that led me down this research path and into higher ed, where I was able to prepare teachers. And that eventually led me into some leadership opportunities that I pursued, which eventually led me to serve as the dean at the University of Louisville for 5 years. And then this was a great opportunity here in Southeast Georgia, and so I applied for this position and was fortunate enough to get it.
Thank you, Rachel.
You all are so kind. I'm going to mute myself now, so this.
Hopefully mine, I think maybe, is it working okay?
Yes, can everybody hear okay?
My name is Rachel Edwards. I grew up in Scriven County, went to high school there, and after high school I came to Georgia Southern and majored in finance. And while at Georgia Southern, I always knew that, or I thought I knew that I wanted to go to law school. So my second year at Georgia Southern, I applied for jobs. I just started in the phone book and just went down and said, hey, are you hiring? And luckily, Ann Moore, she had her name listed first because she did it by Ann, and she was the first person that I contacted, and luckily she hired me. I actually work with one of the ladies that's in the finance office here now, Miss Jan, and kind of got started doing real estate and just helping her around the office and doing title work. And that's actually where I met my husband. We met at the courthouse because we both worked for attorneys at the time. And so once I graduated from Georgia Southern, I went to Mercer University to law school. And the summer after my second year, I worked at a larger firm and really felt like I was kind of being pressured that every second of the day needed to be billed to somebody. And that I almost felt like I had cameras just kind of watching all the time to make sure I was doing something and just work. And I thought, this is not a lot of seeing people or doing anything that really feels important. It's just sitting in here typing on a computer. And I thought, this is not going to work. And so I came back, and my boyfriend at the time worked for an attorney named Wallace Wright here in town. And I went into his office and said, I think I just want to come work here when I graduate. And he just kind of looked at me like, well, I didn't really ask you. And I thought, well. And so he didn't, but he said, well, can you make enough money to pay yourself? And I said, well, I'm sure I can. And so it started from there, and about that time, my husband was actually starting law school up at the University of Georgia, so he had moved to Athens at that point, and I started working and had been there since 2001. My husband came and worked in 2005 and was there about 5 years until he did, from what I understand it here at Ogeechee Tech, if you're an adjunct and you stick around long enough, they'll make you a full-time employee. And so I think that's what he did, and now he teaches out here full-time at Ogeechee Tech in the welding department, but he and I own the firm here in Statesboro, Wright and Edwards. Wallace retired about 15 years ago, and so since then it's just been me. But it's been a lot of learning, but it's more, I think, in my opinion, fun than what I was doing at the larger firm, because I get to talk to people, I get to deal with people, and I don't have to worry if I'm not billing somebody for this time. I don't have to worry that someone's going to look at my timesheet at the end of the day and say, you didn't make enough money today, because to me, that's not what's important. To me, it's important to enjoy it while making a decent living. So that's about it.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank
Yolanda?
you.
Hi, I'm Yolanda. Ooh, I'm not clear. You can hear me, right? Okay. My name is Yolanda Trimble. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, and I'm from Augusta, Georgia, and by way of Georgia Southern University, I graduated from Georgia Southern with a finance degree. Initially, my major was psychology. I wanted to do counseling, and my mother told me, you're not going to make any money in counseling. I was like, but that's what I want to do. But since she was paying for it, I had to major in finance. And I started my career in banking. I've done banking ever since I graduated. I initially worked for Wachovia, which is now Wells Fargo, in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I transferred here. My husband is from here. We transferred back to Statesboro, and I got a job at Wells Fargo. I worked there for over 11 years. And then I wanted to transition and do something different, and I started working for Georgia Power, where I retired from Georgia Power. After I retired from Georgia Power, I started back in banking and worked for Synovus. bank, and I worked there for 5 years. Then I wanted to do something different again. Actually, I wanted to just stay retired and work in our funeral home because we own a funeral home here. But after working with my husband for about 5 months, I knew, if we want to stay married, I need to have my own career, just helping on the back part of it. But I still do the finance I'm the CFO for our business. And now I'm currently working with Willow Pond Living Senior Care. And I absolutely love that job. Although I didn't major in psychology, I still have to be somewhat of a psychologist there. So I feel that I'm still working in my passion, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. And I have one son, Jordan, and my husband is here today. I just looked out there. I said, that's my husband. How you doing, Craig? But I have a passion for people. And now I feel like I'm a servant now to others. I enjoy finance. I still know how to handle my money. But right now, I still have a passion for people, and I enjoy what I do.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. Glad y'all are all here, and thank y'all for having us. My name is Carolyn Etheridge. I was actually born and raised here. Grew up on what we call the Bagel, if you ever heard that terminology in this community, but way out in the country on 100 acres, a dead-end dirt road where my dad kept us pretty much in the gardens growing up. Went to high school at Portal High School, and then my last 2 years, I felt like I needed to get out of just to see what other business opportunity classes there were at a bigger school, so I went to Statesboro High School. And I want to give credit to, if you have a willingness or a desire in your heart, no matter where you come from, what realm, if there are people out there to help you make it happen. So I actually had a neighbor who was related to me. The only way I could get to Statesboro High was she had to drop me off every morning. We didn't have a bus route that would come that far out, and it's about 20 miles. And so she would pick me up every morning, drop me off at another neighbor's house by Statesboro High School, and I would go to school in 11th and 12th grade. And there I fell in love with accounting. I had the best business teachers, and I want to say teachers make a significant difference, and they made a significant difference in my life. And it was just amazing how I ate up all of the business classes. They had offered accounting, office machines. I won key calculator. I don't know how many calculators y'all use now. But I was so excited that there was so much opportunity in that business world. And so my goal in 11th grade was to be a banker. I wanted to be in a bank, working, and eventually being a bank president. Well, that's a large goal for a small community. I started my education with Georgia Southern, then eventually transferred to Kennesaw State. And I got my first job at a bank in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta. Didn't know where or how to drive in Atlanta, Georgia. It was in 1986, I'll tell you my age. But it was amazing because they had the parking garages, and I was a little country girl, had never driven on an interstate, and my legs were shaking like a little dog, and it gets excited. But I was so scared I had to pull over. But I said, God, I really want to do this. I want to make it in banking. So I found my way downtown Atlanta, started a job with Georgia Federal Bank, and then started in a role that was a teller, but I always had that desire to move up. And if you have the willingness and the commitment, it shows you, because now I was the first market president here in Statesboro, Georgia. And I've been in that role for about 8.5 years. So it became full circle. I did take several years off to be a mother, had 3 beautiful children, and so I thought that was my best role yet, but I have grandchildren now, 2 beautiful boys, and that's my best title as CC. But again, I started as a teller in banking, now evolved to market president, and I couldn't have done it without the different levels of jobs I had in banking, without our teams, and just what the community has done for me, and most of all, that God gave me the ability to do so. So I love what I do. I love helping and giving back.
Thank you, Carolyn. So we're going to go ahead and open up for questions. We'll go ahead and ask the first questions. You can direct your question to one panelist or all four. It's up to you. I do have people in the aisles here, so if you have a question, just raise your hand and they'll come to you with a microphone, okay? So the first question I would like for all four of you to answer, and it is, what is your definition of a good leader? So, whoever wants to answer first.
To me, I think a good leader is someone who is able to effectively communicate with whoever it is they're trying to lead, whether it be people in the community, whether it be your employees, or, even friends. I think that it's important to be able to communicate with them and also to, in my opinion, take into account each person's personal situation, because you never know exactly, what each person does, and you can't treat each person the same because they all have different backgrounds, they all come from different jobs, different things like that. And so I think that it's important as a leader to try to get to know who you're trying to lead and to be able to communicate with them and have relationships with them that go beyond just, I see you at work and I say hello. I think I've tried to actually get to know people on a personal level.
Thank you.
In addition to that, I would say that a good leader empowers those that are within their, space of influence. I think, we can all hear, as many of us have talked about, mentors are very important. And I think good leaders look for potential in others and then empower them to grow and to develop and to help them meet their goals.
And I would agree with that. Am I
You're
okay.
yes.
I would agree with that. You look at each individual that's working with you as a team, and you see what their goals and desires are, and then you set the example as a leader. You give back, you invest in them, and really just truly make sure they're being fulfilled in what they're doing, and just set the example on the higher level.
That a good leader should be selfless, and you must have a passion for people,
Yes.
and you must not be intimidated to lead those that may be a little smarter than you or may have more knowledge than you. You can't be intimidated. You must still support them in their efforts. And confidence is paramount for me, because I feel like a lot of leaders sometimes aren't confident in their abilities. And then when they meet someone who may have more skills, it doesn't diminish them as a leader, but they get insecure, and they don't help them get to the next level. But I feel that a good leader should promote others. They should not be selfish and want them to stay there and help them with their career. You must support others.
Thank you.
I have a question for all of you. Did you have a mentor that inspired you?
I'll take that one first. Teresa Howell was our business teacher at Statesboro High School, and the time that she invested in me and saw the ability within me, she was just amazing, an encourager. So my teacher in my 11th grade year was a mentor to me, as well as other just bankers in general that I've worked under. They've really just developed us individually. And I would say most of my bank presidents that I've worked for were definitely mentors to me and invested and gave back. And they were, I always say it's really important that you open the floor for dialect and discussion. And all my bank presidents I've worked under have been willing to do that. So I would say those as well.
I would say that I've had several mentors, but my first mentor was my mother. She was a little tough cookie. And I say that in that I have two sisters, and all of us graduated from college, but my mother did not graduate from college until she was 55. So she encouraged us to be independent women and to be strong in our efforts and to never give up. So she was my first mentor. And then I had an opportunity to have mentors at St. Bank. I would say Darren Burnett was a good mentor for me. He supported me in my career. He encouraged me because I was an African-American woman in the banking industry, and I was the first retail market manager at St. So that was a challenge, and I commend him for believing in me and supporting me to do that job. So I've had several mentors, but those are the two that stand out for me.
I think one of the ones that stands out for me would be Kathy Bradley. She was actually a practicing attorney at the time, and she taught in the evenings. She taught a business law class at Georgia Southern, and that was my first class that, in my mind, was the most challenging class because she gave questions that the answers were multiple choice, A, B, C, or D, but E would be like A but not B, and D would be B but not C, and I'm thinking, how in the world am I supposed to figure all this out? And, and it was really hard, and then I thought, well, you just need to ask the teacher. And once I sat down with her and I realized she was really invested in trying to help all of her students, and that she was not there because of what little bit of money she might have been making, but she was there because she cared about people and that she enjoyed being around them, and she wanted to see other people succeed. And throughout that, I've always kind of kept up with her. She was willing to step out and write letters of recommendation when I was trying to go to law school, and was just always super helpful. And she still, to this day, writes a column in the paper that I enjoy reading, and a thoughtful, caring person. And she's just an awesome person as far as being an attorney and a leader. And she's lucky enough now to be retired, which hopefully I might do one day.
And I'll just say, I'll echo that, it's definitely I've had people that have seen potential in me, whether it's a professor, whether it was a teacher or a supervisor that I had. But I also think a good mentor, and a good mentor that I had, she also told me what maybe I wasn't really ready to hear or needed to hear, because she saw areas in which I could improve. And so I think that as you think about mentors in your life, it's not just about someone there cheering you on. That's part of their role, but part of their role is to teach you something. And I think that's one of the things that I always look for wherever I am, whether it's with President Marrero or the provost. What can I learn from them? What can I learn that can help me in my role serve others more and better? Thank you.
2 years so you can.
Good afternoon. So my question would be for everybody. As women, how have you experienced, trying to see how to word it, have you experienced being in the workforce and knowing you have a lot of potential? However, you have leadership that's not really strong or structured. And if you have experienced that, what have you done to stay motivated, or did you remove yourself from that process? Remove yourself from that journey and move into another journey of something that was better for you, felt was better for you?
I'll speak to that first. Not all bosses or mentors or whatever necessarily teach you the way to do things, but you stick around and look, you may learn the way not to do things. And in my opinion, that's just as important as learning the way to do things, because you can look and you can say, okay, this person handled this way, and here's the reaction that was received, and here's the product, or the end goal is that nothing got done, or that they procrastinated and didn't do things. And so you watch and you say, okay, that's not working there, so what can I do that's going to be different to make a different outcome? And I think that was one of the biggest learning experiences is, there are people that can teach you all sorts of different things. Not all lessons you learn are going to be good lessons, about good things that you can do and positive things, but also you learn about things not to do. I think that's very important.
I think one of the things that as women, or as a woman, that I've tried to do is to look for allies. in those situations. So it's often that I am in meetings where it's very male-dominated, as I'm sure it is in banking and in law and other things. But if you can find someone in that room that you have built a relationship with, and you can say, they will often say, oh, I think Amy has something to say right now about that. I will never forget one of my mentors went to college, I love this story, in the late 60s, and she was a mathematician. So you can imagine how many women were in upper level math classes in the late 60s. Not many. So there was a professor, a male professor, he would ask a question. Karen was the only female in the class, and she would raise her hand, as would many of the other students in the class. And the professor never called on her, ever, even though she knew the answer. So after class one day, another student, male student, came up to her and said, hey, this is something I've noticed. I've noticed that every time you raise your hand, the professor never calls on you. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Whenever you raise your hand, I'm going to get every male in the class not to raise theirs, so we can force that professor to call on you. And it worked, right? So when we, as women, those are the things that we have to look for allies that can help promote us, that value our perspective and our opinion.
I would say when I work for Georgia Power, that's a male-dominated field. The main thing I had to learn was to be confident in your ability. Of course, you're going to be challenged. Of course, you're going to have supervisors or managers that you may feel that don't see your value. But make sure you see your value. And it is a challenge. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It is a challenge sometimes when you're working in a male-dominated field as a female. But don't let that deter you from your goals and what you would like to do. And to answer your question, has anyone ever left because of the male-dominant field, feel like you're not being heard? No, you don't have to leave. What you do is try to determine, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this situation? Because if you continue to leave, you'll always leave. So there's always a lesson in everything. So just try to learn what you can. And when it's time to move, you'll know when to move. But you're going to move to a higher level, not at the same level.
Yeah, and I would also echo what everyone else has spoken, but I always look at it as individually, what are my goals? And then are the goals that I have, do they match up with the organizational goal? And so then your leader or who your supervisors are, at the time, a company has the right to change direction. So I always had the just understanding within myself, if a company or a supervisor or a leader changes the dynamics of what I was originally hired for, or it goes against something that I'm really, really passionate or committed to, then I look at it as it's my responsibility to look for other opportunities, or first of all, just have that discussion with your leader or your supervisor. Just say, look, this is where I feel like that we have either come apart or we're not going the same direction. Am I understanding that? But just have open communication. And then if they've done everything on their end and they're still going in that direction, then it's up to me to be responsible for where I go with that. So I have left organizations that I love, and it was a hard decision, but I was working against the grain. And so I always say, don't be, I guess, a prisoner to staying with a company and be miserable. Make sure you've got, as others have said, the confidence in yourself and your ability to leave professionally and with good graces, because you never know who you'll work for or who you'll work with. But I always handle things in a very professional way, but don't be afraid to speak up and have a voice is what I would just encourage you.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming over here.
Hello. This can be for everybody, I guess. It's like a three-parter. So what are some challenges you faced along your career, along your journey? How did you work through those? And then what did it teach you on the other side?
I'll answer that first. One of the challenges I can say in my career is balancing work-life balance, your personal life and your work life, because at the end of the day, your family is most important. However, you still must perform at your job and do an efficient job. So that was one. What was the second question?
How did you work through those challenges?
Okay.
And then, like, what did it
I was able to have a support system, and my husband and I worked together because both of us were career oriented, and we had a child, so we still had to work together and balance that. And I was fortunate enough to work for companies that believed in work-life balance, and knew that you need those mental days, those mental health days. So I was fortunate to have that. And sometimes I know there are companies that don't respect your personal life, but that's where you have to over-communicate what your needs are, because if you're not effective at home, you're not going to be effective at work. So you have to really communicate that.
Yeah, I will take it as, I had a challenge. I had to learn that people will let you down and that not everybody has your best interest at heart. And so being a young, motivated employee of a bank, there were several managers as well as coworkers who would do things intentionally to, I guess, try to sabotage your career. And so what I've learned to do is I tried not to give it real life. I don't give their words power. I know who I am and I know what God's gifted me to do. And so basically I learned not to react to those people, not to let them determine or dictate my everyday life. If I had an issue with someone, I would go to management or to their superior. We would talk through it, but it really was disheartening. I was only in my 20s, and it just broke my heart that there were mean people in this world, even adults, who were a lot older than me. And so that was a hard awakening. But I've learned to treat everybody better from that. I became a better leader, a better coworker. I look at things as a team, and that you will have bad cookies on your team, but don't let that one bad cookie determine the whole positive outcome or energy of your company.
I think one of my biggest challenges was actually building a business. I was, new to the business, did not know, I deal with a lot of realtors, bankers. I did not know a lot of those people. And in the community where we work, relationships are very important. It's very important to know people and know them on a personal level so that they feel comfortable bringing business to you. And one of the main ways that I feel like I was able to grow my business and meet people was by volunteering. I volunteered for pretty much any board that would, take me. And, you have to do that. I think when you're young and starting out, I think that you've got to take the time and give back to your community, and you've got to do what the people that are older than you have already done, and you've got to get out and meet people, and they've got to see that you're willing to put in the work, and then they're maybe willing to come and utilize your business and work with you. But volunteering was by far, I think, one of the best experiences that I had early in my career, because it did help me meet so many different people from so many different areas.
I agree with the balancing of family and work, because I think we're in these positions because obviously we want to work hard. We want to make a difference in our community or in the lives of those that we serve. But that also, it takes time to do that. And that time, there's only so many hours in a day. And so, especially early on in my career as an assistant professor with two very, very young children, I had my children late in life. And so, I was trying to get promoted and tenured, and with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I was having to stay up. They would sleep, I would write, it was just But I think, and I had this guilt, right? Like, I need to be home with them. I should be home with them. And I think, though, that them seeing me persevere and move through my career and move up in my career, I think that has served as a model for them, that you need to work hard and you need to persevere, even when things are really difficult, like leading a college during COVID when we didn't know what was happening or whether students were going to be able to come back. They saw me get up every day and try to make the best decisions possible for students. So yeah, I think everything they said is right. It's tough to balance. It's tough to establish relationships. I'm going through that right now, right? This area is very relationship driven. Well, I've been plopped here from Kentucky, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, I need to know Mr. Wilson. He's the superintendent. I need to know this person. I need to know this person. So that takes a lot of time. So, but it's all good, right? Because we could all have our own personal mission and what we're trying to accomplish and to serve others and to serve students at Georgia Southern and to serve our community. And so that makes it all worthwhile.
Thank you. Question over here.
Hi, I have a question. As a woman in leadership, this may not apply to everyone, but for those who it applies to, I would like to hear your solution or how you've combated. Many times as a woman in leadership, when we are assertive, we are considered aggressive. When a man is assertive, they're considered assertive. And sometimes we're called the bossy word or even the other B word, right? Use your imagination. How have you combated that as being a woman in leadership?
I can kind of start, and I had an executive coach when I was in my previous role, and she was an amazing woman, also a mentor, and she gave me 4 words which kind of guide me in those moments when it's possible that I could be perceived as any of those words that you described. And that is kind, clear, fair, and firm. So I try to be warm. I try to be personable. I am personable. I love people. I'm an extrovert. Nothing gives me more energy than being in a group of people or looking out and seeing all of you. But there are times when, as a leader, you have to make really difficult decisions and really hard decisions in the best interest of the organization or in the best interest, in my case, of the students that we serve. And so I try to be kind in doing that, but also firm in that there are boundaries and there are policies and there are rules and there are ethical considerations that are really non-negotiable, especially when we're working with students. And so that's how I try to be warm and personal and get to know people, and I love people. But at the same time, you have to be fair and firm and decisive.
I've been called all those things, and even the unspoken things. As you age, you do a lot of self-reflection, but you also have to surround yourself around accountability people who will tell you the truth. And then you can't change who you are, but we can all grow from those negative things and those negative labels. Because sometimes we can be all of those things, and on any given day, you never know what's going on with you, and your personality may change, but that doesn't say that's who you are. So I would say to you, when someone ever addressed you that way, do a little self-reflection and say, okay, what could I have done differently? And go from there, because you're going to make those mistakes as leaders. But sometimes you also, as a leader, have to bring to other employees information that they don't have privy to, so it may appear that you're being aggressive or whatever, but you're trying to do your job to the best of your ability. But don't take it personal. And that's what we have to really learn. I had to learn it in my 50 years. Don't take it so personal. Don't be so hard on myself, because if you're aggressive, but there are things that you can do to fine tune that. And if you weren't aggressive and assertive and all those good things, you wouldn't be where you are. So continue to be you.
As an attorney, generally, we represent people. And so there's always somebody that's on what you'd consider the other side. But I think it's important to understand that they may represent somebody that has a completely different opinion of what I think is right, but that doesn't mean that their opinion's worth any less. It means that for whatever reason, they have a different opinion. And I think you need to understand that as a woman, you might not be everybody's cup of tea. They may not think, oh, you're just the sweetest and nicest and warmest, friendliest person, and that's okay. But I think you have to be respectful. You may be called those words, but still you have to be respectful for everyone or to everyone else. And eventually, you build a rapport with these people that you work with regularly, and they know that Rachel's not going to be on my side on this, but we're still going to be friends when we're done with it, because we're all in this together, and everybody deserves to have someone representing them and someone in their corner, fighting for them. I think the respect's the main key there.
And I was going to echo respect. Just when you're in a situation where you feel like you're being attacked or talked down to, and you're truly trying to do your job in a respectful way, just make sure you stay true to that. I'm very passionate about what I do, and most of the time I have male leaders or superiors, and they're like, Carolyn, we love that you love what you do, and we don't take it that you're being disrespectful or aggressive. We take it that you really are doing well what you're doing, and we're taking it like that. So just stay true to who you are, be respectful, and just stay the course, and you'll come out on top.
Thank you.
What are some good leadership styles and skills you guys would recommend for like keeping good management?
Organization. I think.
Delegation. Make sure you hire the right people that you know that you can groom and continue to grow and delegate those authorities to.
Say build your team. Make sure you build your team how you would like your team to be, and make sure that you're willing to do whatever you expect them to do.
And I would just say, build those relationships, because at the end of the day, relationships is what allows you to get things done.
That's right.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. As women, I think we wear a lot of different hats, but there doesn't come a lot of recognition and celebration with that. So this is a twofold question. Do you struggle with celebrating your accomplishments? And if you don't, how do you encourage someone to celebrate themselves?
That is such a great question, because you're right. I don't. I mean, I hate talking about myself. This is making me kind of uncomfortable, right? I don't really want to end the bio. Thank goodness you didn't read the whole thing. I mean, it really makes me uncomfortable. So I think that I've surrounded myself with an amazing husband that celebrates me every day. He encourages my kids to celebrate me, which is always nice. So I think just surrounding yourself with those people that will celebrate you.
And I've found that I've had many roles in my life. I never wanted to be a mom. I know that sounds horrible. I don't like kids, but I love my kids. So anyway, sorry, am I being recorded? But no, truly, God has blessed me with 3 beautiful children, and that was my goal was to be a market president or a president for a bank. And so I had to truly pray about it, and my husband and I had to talk about it. And finally, I thought, you know what? I can do this. I can be a mom. And so when I became a mom, wow, she just grabbed my heart. And so I had to really struggle. If I get out of my career path and be a stay-at-home mom, I'll never be what I want to be professionally. And so I had to go through a lot of just growth within myself and encouragement from others. Like you said, I surrounded myself with the right people. I actually went to a little bit of counseling about this. I was like, what's wrong with me? I want to work, but yet I want to be a mom. And this is the best advice. He said, whatever makes you the best of both roles, that's what you need to do. Don't worry about what other people think, say, or try to measure up to other women that you feel like are different, you have different mindsets. And so I became that person. I said, okay, what is it that I do well? I do well banking. I love giving back. And again, relationships, building those relationships. So I took a step back and stayed home for 3 years. So I was a great mom, but I felt like I was a better mom being in the banking environment too. So I did both. I had a supportive husband, and I did not do too bad in being a mom. My boys will be 30 in April, and they're very successful, great young men who are married. My daughter, again, went to school here to Georgia Tech. She does sonography. So you can do both well. You just have to determine, how does it all fit, and surround yourself with the right people and opportunities.
And I think it's important to realize that you don't have to do all of it.
That's right.
Personally, I don't have children.
Yeah.
That was a conscious choice that, that's not for everybody. It's a hard job, and not everybody's cut out for it. And I think it's important to realize there are going to be things in life that you're not cut out for, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to focus instead on the things that are important to me and what I want to do, So I think that's important as well.
I would say that I've always been the supporter and the encourager of others. I never really needed validation from anyone, but it's hard for me to take compliments from others. But my husband forced me, and like she said, it's hard to talk about yourself. I'm not one to need to talk about myself and what I do. I feel like my life's journey has been what I thought God wanted me to do. And so I don't worry about who appreciate what I do. It's good for someone to say that, but I like to encourage others and support others. And sometimes it's kind of hard to encourage yourself along the way. So that validation was not important to me.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Hello. Can y'all recall a moment where you almost gave up in your career, but what kept you going, if so?
I can.
Every day.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Joe?
You go right ahead.
Of course. There are challenging days, and there's sometimes you don't know if you can do the job, especially when I was at Georgia Power and had to learn about electricity, had to climb in attics, had to do a lot of things. But the money was good, so it was okay. But even now, you have your moments when you're tired. But if you have a passion for something, you continue until you don't want to do it any longer. And retirement is close for me. However, I know that when I truly retire, I still have to have a purpose and a mission. I'm not going to just sit and not do anything. So, often I want to give up.
I think one of my challenging times was when the economy completely collapsed in 2008 and 2009, and what kept me going was that I had a mortgage on my house and an office building that a banker expected me to pay for. And so, you've got to find different avenues. Where real estate had primarily been my focus, I thought, okay, that's not happening right now because, the economy's just not going in that direction. So you have to find other things to do to keep going, and just keep in mind that you're not always going to have to do the same thing, that even though you're in the same career, you can change paths to do something a little bit different to make things better. But it's definitely always a challenge from day to day, because when you have employees, your concern is that, they expect for me to provide them with a paycheck. And that, first and foremost, if I'm going to expect them to come to work, I'm going to have to do that. And so that was a huge motivator for me.
So I applied for a job at a university and didn't get it. And I was simply devastated. And I just had to realize that that wasn't the place, that for whatever reason, that wasn't the plan or the place for where I needed to be. And realized that maybe I just needed to looked at my resume and figured out, okay, this is what I need to improve. This is how I need to position myself. So the next time that I apply to a position, that I will likely be successful. So I used it as an opportunity for more self-reflection, as similar to what's been said.
And I would again echo all those. But there are times, again, when the economy got really tough in banking, I thought, well, okay, well, I'm just going to quit this and go into a whole different field of just mainly helping with assisted living. I thought, well, I can do that. And thank the Lord, a good friend and coworker said, have you been to those facilities? Do you feel like you could really let go of not being sad or attached? Because I get really attached. I love relationships. And so I went to visit. Thank God she gave me that advice. And it was hard. I mean, those are hard. You got to have the right people, thank the Lord, in those facilities. But I probably would make the families sadder just being with them. So I decided that I better stay in banking, and then thank the Lord that I didn't give up on my banking career. But yeah, there are days when it's really tough, but you just have to push through, and God always has a plan as long as you pray about it. You have a passion, you find your passion, you find your purpose. And so I decided to stay in banking, and thank God I did, for the families as well, not just for me.
Right, thank you. We have time for one more question.
Okay, good afternoon. What would you credit the most to your success? For example, would you say that it is your knowledge, your confidence, or the support of people around you, or maybe a combination of several different characteristics or traits?
I would say my faith. I feel that I believe in God, and I believe in His purpose for me. And also, I'm very resilient. I don't give up. I may go down, but I'm going to come back up. So that's what I would say.
I think it has to be a combination of a lot of things. I think you have to have goals in mind. I think you have to have the work ethic to get to those goals, and then you have to have a passion to want to work with people no matter what field you're in, and respect for everyone else.
I would say ditto what she said. I could not have said it better.
And I'm going to read something because that fits right into, this is where I believe will make you the best leader. I said, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people are or act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on this one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. And I have to say that I did not write this great thing. Its author is Chuck Swindoll. But again, it is a collective effort on all those that you mentioned, but just your attitude of how you approach life. And that's how I approach what I do.
Thank you very much. Thank you, each of you, for being here today and offering your time. And that's going to do it for today. This will be put on our YouTube channel afterwards, so if you'd like to go back and rewatch it, you can. I'll send that link out later, and thank you very much for coming. Let's see if I...